These songs never disappeared. They still play in supermarkets, in movies, and in the background of other people's memories. But ask one simple question: who sings this? And the room goes quiet. Tonight, we're revisiting 5 huge hit songs from 1978 that are strangely forgotten today. These are songs that once dominated the airwaves and now feel like ghosts of a year the world barely remembers. Number 5. Player, Baby Come Back. By the start of 1978, Baby Come Back was everywhere without ever feeling loud about it. It played in cars, in grocery stores, and in the background of living rooms. You didn't stop what you were doing to listen to it. It just followed you around. And that's exactly why it worked. Peter Beckett didn't write the song trying to sound wounded or dramatic. It came out of a breakup that had already cooled off. No shouting match, no big final scene. Just the slow realization that the relationship was over and he'd waited too long to do anything about it. That delay sits at the center of the song. The narrator isn't angry. He's late, and a lot of people recognize themselves in that. Radio picked up on it fast, not because it was risky, but because it fit perfectly between everything else. Disco was exploding, rock was splintering, and Baby Come Back felt safe, familiar, and emotionally easy to live with. DJs could slide it into any playlist without losing the mood. Within weeks, it was climbing, and by early 78, it was at number 1. That success, however, didn't turn Player into a real band in the public's mind. They didn't have a strong image, a story people could latch onto, or a frontman audiences felt they knew. Player was more like a well-recorded voice coming out of the radio than a group with an identity. The label pushed them hard anyway. Tours, quick follow-ups, and expectations that another hit would appear if they just stayed in the same lane. But that lane was narrow. Baby Come Back worked because it arrived at the exact right emotional temperature. The follow-up songs sounded fine, but fine wasn't enough. They didn't stick. By the time listeners realized they hadn't heard a new Player song in a while, they had already stopped looking for one. What's strange is that the song never really left. It kept showing up years later in movies, TV shows, and ads, often used to underline regret or missed chances. People kept singing along, but rarely said the band's name out loud. Baby Come Back became one of those songs everyone knows and almost no one places. By the early 80s, Player had faded from radio rotation, not in a dramatic way. They just weren't useful anymore in an industry that had moved on to bigger personalities. The moment had passed. Number 4, Gerry Rafferty, Baker Street. By 1978, Gerry Rafferty wasn't living like someone about to have one of the biggest songs of the year. His band had collapsed into legal arguments. His money was tied up in contracts, and he was stuck in London with nowhere to go. Some nights, he slept on a friend's floor near Baker Street, killing time and wondering how long a music career could stay paused before it simply disappeared. That's where the song came from, not ambition, but boredom, frustration, and waiting. Baker Street isn't about starting over. It's about telling yourself you will while knowing you probably won't. The narrator talks about leaving, but every line sounds like it's going in circles. The job is wrong. The city feels small, and the future keeps getting pushed to someday. Anyone who had ever felt trapped in a routine heard themselves in it immediately. The saxophone line sealed it. It didn't sound hopeful or triumphant. It sounded worn down, like someone replaying the same thoughts on the walk home. When the song started climbing the charts, Rafferty didn't celebrate the way labels expected him to. The success came fast, but it came attached to everything he already hated about the industry: touring, interviews, and loss of privacy. The song about being stuck suddenly made him famous, and fame only tightened the feeling. Baker Street went to number 1 in multiple countries, but it also locked him into a moment he didn't want to relive. Listeners wanted the mood again, but Rafferty wanted distance. Over time, he pulled back. Drinking became heavier, and public appearances became rare. While the song stayed alive, reused in films and sampled by new generations, its creator faded further away from it. People recognized the sax line instantly, but fewer knew anything about the man behind it. By the end of the decade, Baker Street had become one of those songs that feels like it's always been there, but its story, the legal mess and the exhaustion, slowly vanished from memory. Number 3, Andy Gibb, Shadow Dancing. In 1978, Andy Gibb moved through fame like someone carried by momentum rather than choice. Television adored him, and magazines chased him. Shadow dancing arrived right there. The song sounded sleek and smooth, built for movement and spotlight. It slid across dance floors and radio stations with ease, and within months, it hit #1, his third chart topper in a single year. At that pace, success stopped feeling like something that could pause. The Bee Gees shaped the song from behind the scenes, giving it structure and polish. That support opened doors instantly, but it also erased space for him to grow. The public saw a finished product, expectations rose fast, and there was little room to breathe. As shadow dancing dominated the charts, problems surfaced in real time. Schedules tightened, cocaine settled into the routine, and the energy audiences loved on stage drained everything else off it. Rehearsals slipped, commitments fractured, and his high-profile relationship with Olivia Newton-John collapsed under addiction and emotional instability. By the end of the decade, the momentum faded. Labels hesitated, and Andy no longer felt predictable. There was no dramatic exit, just fewer calls and fewer chances. Andy Gibb died in 1988 at just 30 years old, his body worn down by years of excess. By then, the song felt like a snapshot from another life, a version of him frozen at the peak, still moving effortlessly. Shadow dancing faded because it captured the high point perfectly, and nothing after that moment felt safe to replay. #2. Nick Gilder, Hot Child in the City. In 1978, Hot Child in the City climbed the charts fast, and people noticed it for reasons beyond the melody. The title alone made some listeners pause, and the lyrics sparked conversations. Nick Gilder had spent years circling success before this moment, chasing trends and watching opportunities slip past. This song changed that overnight, reaching #1 in the US and putting his name everywhere at once. The song centered on youth, nightlife, and attraction without spelling anything out directly. That vagueness helped it stay on the radio, but it also created unease. Some stations hesitated, critics questioned it. The industry leaned into the attention because attention sold records. For a few months, it worked perfectly, but the song left Gilder with a narrow identity. Audiences associated him almost entirely with that one track. When follow-up singles arrived, they struggled to gain traction. Radio moved on quickly, shifting toward disco dominance and newer sounds. Behind the scenes, momentum slowed, and the music landscape shifted again. Hot Child in the City stayed alive on classic hit rotations, its title still raising eyebrows decades later. The song remained recognizable, but the artist became harder to recall. Gilder kept working in music, but the spotlight never returned. The track faded because it belonged to one exact moment. #1. Walter Egan, Magnet and Steel. By 1978, Walter Egan had already spent years close to success without touching it. He worked the industry from the inside, writing and collaborating, but his own name never stuck. He wasn't chasing trends loudly. He was waiting for something to land. Magnet and Steel came out of a relationship that felt unbalanced from the start. Egan wrote it while involved with Stevie Nicks, who was already deep into superstardom. The song reflects that imbalance clearly. One person pulled forward by gravity, the other holding steady, unsure whether they could keep up. Nicks sang backing vocals on the track, and her presence mattered. Her voice was familiar and trusted, helping radio stations pay attention. The song moved quickly up the charts and reached the top 10, finally putting Egan's name in rotation. But the song tied Egan too closely to its context. Listeners connected Magnet and Steel to Nicks as much as to him. The relationship behind the song became its identity. Even as that relationship faded, the follow-up singles lacked the same built-in gravity. Radio interest softened, and without a second defining hit, Egan's window narrowed quickly. Mainstream attention drifted elsewhere, and while the melody continued to play on the radio, fewer remembered the man at the center of it. Walter Egan never disappeared from music. He kept writing and producing, but the moment where the spotlight pointed directly at him vanished. So, which one brings back memories? Share your thoughts in the comments. And the next time one of these tracks comes on and you catch yourself singing along, pause for a second. Not to feel nostalgic, but to notice how a song can survive perfectly fine, even after the world forgets who made it. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Hollywood Unmasked for more deep dives into the stories the industry tried to leave behind.